Hi everyone, and welcome to the next lecture, which will be on CRUD, update and delete. Alright, so let's get straight to it. So make sure that your server is online. Okay, and let's just go to our homepage. So we can see it's just blank like that. So before we move on, I just want to make this a little bit more user-friendly. So instead of constantly typing in the route for create task and view tasks, why don't we just set up like a simple link here just to redirect us from our home page. So we're going to do just that quickly. So to do that, we need to go to our index.html, which is our home page. And I'm just going to create a link basically with HTML, and I'll embed some Django tags in just a second. So we can say hey, ahref. And then here I want to say create a task. Okay, and then I just want to put line breaks, and then we'll have another link here for view tasks. Okay, now what we need to do here is we're going to use a Django tag here, which will be for URL. So before we can actually do this, we need to double check something. We need to go to our urls.py. And in order to make use of this URL tag in this href, we need to make sure that we've defined the third parameter, which is name. So we have it here defined, so view task is okay, but we need to set it for create task. So to do that, we can just say name equals, and we can just say create task. Okay, so just like that will be fine. So we can head on back, and we're going to use a special tag here. So we're going to open curly brace, percentage symbol URL. And then I'm just going to put two empty strings, a percentage symbol, and close. And I'm going to copy this here and just put it in the second href property here. So all I need to do now is I'm going to reference this name, the value that I assigned here to name. So here I have create task, and here I have view tasks. So these two will reference these routes for us, so we don't have to constantly keep typing it in. So I can go here and I can put in, let's see, create task. Okay, just like that. So reference that. And then view tasks. So I'll just copy this here. And I can put just here. Right, perfect. So now if we go and just simply refresh, we will see we have now two links here. So this would be to create a task, and this would be to view a task, or view our tasks. Okay, so let's give this a click. So there we go. So we'll be able here to create a task. It's set automatically. So when we create a record here, we will be sent to the view tasks route. Now, if we were to go ahead and say view tasks, we will go automatically to this place here. All right, so that's it. Just add that to make everything a bit cleaner. Okay. Right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to update a record. Okay, so let's get straight to it. So first of all, what I want us to do is to just create a simple HTML template. So let's just close this all up. And we're just going to create a simple template here. And I'm going to call it update task.html. So very simple and straightforward, just like that. And I'm not going to put anything in it yet. What I can do, however, is I can just copy the default here from view tasks. So template inheritance here. And I'm just going to say here, update. I'm just going to say here, update a task, because they will be shown on one page individually. So here, I'm just going to say update task. Okay, so simple like that. So we can just leave that for now. And we can go ahead and set up our URLs in our to-do app. So let's go to our URLs. All right, and actually, I just want to make this a bit better, a bit clearer, let's say. Just like that. Okay. So we have create task, read task, and now we're going to have update. Update. So I'm going to put this in caps, of course, just to keep continuity. So we're going to have a URL path here for updating a task. So I'm just going to paste this here. And we're going to do this a little bit differently. So I'm just going to drag my view here. And I'm just going to prepare it. So update a task. Okay. So what we need to do here is we need to create a dynamic sort of URL here. So on our root here, okay, we're going to say, first of all, update task. Okay, but then what we need to do is we're going to use a /, and we're going to create, we're going to put it in angle brackets. So we're going to put str and then pk. Okay, this will be our primary key, so our ID. So this is what we're going to reference to a task. Right, closing angle bracket, and we can put a / there. Okay. So this will make more sense soon enough. So basically what's going to happen is when we want to update a specific task, okay, we're going to, for example, click on one of these links, okay? So let's say, let's go to view tasks. Okay, so we have these objects here. So let's say under this first object that we have, we're going to have an update underneath it. Under this object, we're going to have update underneath it. And under this object, we're going to have update underneath it. Okay, so when we click, of course, on update here, it's going to update this object. Update, if we click on update here, it's going to update this object. Okay, so just imagine there being like an update link or button underneath each object. Okay, and let's say this is object 1. So we clicked on update here. It's going to take us to, let's go here. It's going to take us to, for example, update task 3, like this. So you can see here, this will be the dynamic URL part here that we add. And in this case, we're going to reference our primary key or our ID of a task. And then let's say this is object 2. Okay, let's say this is object 1. We would have that. Let's say we want to go to this, we want to update this object. It will be 2. And this one would be 3. Okay, so that is the whole part of dynamic URLs. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. So let's head on back to our homepage. Okay. Okay, so more on this soon enough. Okay, so let's set our views here. So I'm going to go to our views and I'm just going to say def update task, pass in the request to handle our views. And I'm just going to say pass for now. So here we go, and I want to see what I call the view, update task. Perfect. All right, and the name that we can use, because we will be using a URL, just like we've seen here in the href property of HTML, we can just simply say, I'm just going to say update, update task. All right, so there is our URL done. We've started the markup for our view, and we can move on now with the main part. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to work on our views.py here for updating a task. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to pass in our ID, or in this case PK, so we can say the primary key. So we're going to refer to each task's ID. And to do that, we need to, right next to request, pass in PK. And this, of course, is going to reference whatever we put here in our angle brackets. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to, of course, get this ID. And to do that, we can just create a variable. So here I'm going to say task equals task.objects. .get, and I want to get that specific ID. Okay, so if, for example, we go to view tasks, I want to get the object ID here. So this is object 1, object 2, object 3, for example. So that's what I'm doing here. I want to get that specific ID of that object I've chosen. Then I can just say form equals, and then I'm going to say task form. Okay, so very simple, like we did when we created a task. So this is very similar to creating a task. And what I want to do is I want to pass in an instance. So I want to update a specific instance. And here I can just say task. So I'm referring to whichever object I choose, whichever instance I get by selecting here. This will be the instance I want to update. So if I want to click update, I want to update this one. If I want to click update here, I'll click this one. But this will make more sense as we go on. Okay, so we just need to get a specific instance. Now it'll be very simple. We can just check. So if the request.method is going to be of a post request. Okay, we'll deal with the form soon enough. We can simply just say form equals task form. And we need to pass two things in. We need to say, okay, I want to get the task form and I want it to be, it will be a post request that I'm expecting. Then the instance that I want to update, okay, will be task. So I'm going to update a specific instance. Now, everything else is very simple now. We can just now check if the form is valid. If there's no errors or whatnot, we can say if form is valid. Oh, I need to add the colon. And then we can just say form.save. And remember, this is similar to just saying form.create or form.post. And then we can redirect. So I want us to redirect to view tasks. So let's double check that URL here. View tasks, yep. So whenever so what's going to happen here is I'm going to update a task. If it's valid, I'm going to proceed to update it. And then if it's successful here, I'm just going to redirect to view tasks and see the update in the list of all these tasks. Okay, perfect. Now, what I can do, I can simply open create task and update task. So they're literally going to use the exact same here. Okay, everything will be exactly the same. The uniqueness part that we can see here with update task is we are updating an instance. So that is the difference between the create and the update, because in the update we specifically choose an instance that we want to update. Okay. So an instance meaning a specific object here that we want to update. Okay, perfect. Now we do the same as before. We need to just pass out the context here. So we can just add our context dictionary here. And we need to just set the HTML. So it's going to be update task. Just like that. Okay, so there we have our update task. Everything's perfect here. So we're going to update a task. Okay, so we are almost there. So the next thing that we need to do is, what we want to do is we want to go to our view tasks. Okay, so let's update this here. And we are simply just going to underneath here, we want to add a link, okay, that's going to send us to this update task page here. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to be very simple. We're just going to create a link. So I'm just going to reuse this. And I'm going to put it here, and this will be update. I'm just going to call this update task. Okay, and this is going to be very specific. Okay, so I'm going to, of course, set the URL here. So I'm just going to put it as, we will have update task. So it will be update task as our route. And then next to it, I need to be aware of the angle brackets here. So to get that ID from our tasks here, I just want to pass in task.id like that. So if we go and check this now, we can go ahead to our view tasks, update, and there we go. So now you can see what I meant earlier. We can update our tasks. Okay, so this looks a bit cluttered. So I just want to put line breaks just underneath here. Okay, there we go. So we're going to update each instance here. So for example, this object, we can see there by the tooltip in the bottom left, this is object 6, object 7, and object 9. So this is what I mean when I said here that we're going to update based on the instance. So we're getting the ID of whatever we're selecting here to this URL, which is going to pass through here, through our view, and we're going to get that specific ID. And we're going to set that instance, and that is the instance that we want to update. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually test this out. So let's say I want to update the task for object 6. I want to click on here. And here's some data already pre-filled. So I want to update this. So I'm going to say do chores at home. And I can say must be done by 12 p.m. So once I click submit, let's see what's going to happen. If I click submit, okay, it's going to save, and I'm going to be redirected back to view tasks upon submission. So let's do that. So must be done by 12. And there we go, it's been updated there. So we can also see that our link has changed to a different color. Now, next one, data entry must be finished by Friday. Let's update this. So I'm going to say data entry. No, I'm going to change this. I'm going to say complete analysis work. And here I'm going to say must be finished by Sunday. Submit. And we can see the next object's been updated. Let's do the last one, prepare for a test. And here I'm going to say, okay, I must study for 8 hours a day. Bit extreme, but let's go for it. So let's say submit. And there we go, it's been updated. Okay, so this is how you'll be able to update a task in Django. So this is, of course, the third part of CRUD, so update. And the next thing that we're going to look at will be on delete. Right, so let's go ahead and delete a task. So what we want to do, we just want to close this up for now. This is a bit chaotic. And let's start from the beginning here. Okay, so what we will need now is we will need a delete task.html template. So we can go to new file and we can say delete.task. No, sorry, delete-task.html. And like before, we can simply just borrow the top here. So some template inheritance. We can go down and I can just say here CRUD delete a task. Okay, so this will be the last part of CRUD. So then you'll be able to create, read, and update records in Django, which is a really very good thing to be able to do. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so there is our base HTML. Now we can do the usual. Let's go to our app to do, go to the URLs, and we're going to now set our delete URL path. Okay, let's get this. So we can just copy here, and I'm just simply going to go on ahead and say delete task. So we need to do the same thing again. We're doing the same thing as we did with read. So instead of update task here, we'll have delete task just below it, and it's going to use the same sort of functionality. We're also going to have an angle brackets, sort of a dynamic URL here. So I just want you to bear that in mind. So a lot of it will be the same. So you can see as I do it. So now we can set our view for delete a task. So remember to add comments. So very important to do that. And what we're going to do is actually much simpler to delete than to update. So, but it follows very similar logic. So I'm going to create a function called def delete task, pass in the request, and we want to pass in PK, so that will be our ID for task. And just going to put pass in for now, enter our URL. So here I'm going to say delete task. I want this name parameter here, the value, to be delete task as well. Okay, so we have some consistency here. Okay, I just want to make this comment here a bit more pronounced. Okay, let's just make this. Okay, so we can see our CRUD operations as so. Okay, fine. It's just, sorry, I'm just playing around here. There we go. Okay, so here are our operations, and we're going to focus on delete task now. Our URL path is set. Let's just finish up our views for now. Okay, so what we need to do is the same as we've done before. We are just going to specifically choose a task. So we're going to select a task of the specific instance that we have here. Same thing as before. And what we can do next is very simple. We're just going to check if we are expecting a post request. So to prepare for that, we can do this. And I'm just going to say task.delete. So this is, of course, a method here, the delete method. So what's going to happen here, I'm going to get that specific, I'm going to get that specific instance. Okay, so let's say I want to choose this instance and say delete task. I'm going to get that instance. And if I submit the form, it's going to delete that specific task that I've selected. Okay, this will make sense as we go along. Okay, so there we have it. And if I've deleted a task, I again want to redirect to view tasks. So I redirect to this page here where I can read all my tasks. And I should notice that the entire instance should be deleted. Okay, so that is the end result. Okay, so we do the same as we've done before. We need to just create our context dictionary. Let's get this here. Okay, let's see. What's the problem? Actually, when it comes to deleting a task, we actually do not need our context dictionary, and I'm going to explain to you why we don't need that. So for now, just pass in, you can just go ahead and just return render the request and delete task. You can just keep that very simple. And what we can do is we can simply go straight ahead to our delete task here, and we can just copy and reuse the create task form here. Oh, what we get? Okay, and this is going to work a little bit differently. So we're still going to be a post request. CRF token is important, but we're not going to have a form here. We do not need to actually output we don't need to make use of task form. Okay, we don't need to see the data again because we're not updating. We just want to delete that task, okay? So I just want to take away pass. So what we essentially will be doing is we're just going to put a message here that says, are you sure? So in p tags, are you sure paragraph tags you want to delete? And then we can just leave it there. And what we can do is we can add something rather fancy here, and I'm just going to put here in quotes. And what you can do, you can pass in that specific object. Okay, so I'll show you what this does now. So you're just going to pass in that object saying, are you sure you want to delete this object? And we can, of course, just put a question mark here. Okay, and we also want to give our users an opportunity to go back in case there is a problem. So we can just say a href, so just create a href tag saying go back. And here, I'm just going to do the usual. I'm going to create a tag here that is to go back to, that's going to go back to view tasks, just like that. Okay, so let's give this all a try and see how it works. So if I let's see. So we're going to go to view tasks. Okay, we need to actually add our view task, sort of, what do you call it? Our link. So I'm just going to put here, we can just copy this. So the good thing is about us being in our loop here, we can just loop over and just switch this to delete task. So I'm going to say delete task. Okay, just like that. So if I refresh, I now have the option to delete a task, so an object per se. And you can see here by the tooltip in the bottom left, delete task 6 and update task 6. Update task 7, delete task 7. Update task 9, and then we have delete task 9. Okay, it's on the right side now, the tooltip. Okay, so let's give this a shot. So let's go here. Update task. Okay, so what we need to do is we see this is blank. So what we want to do is we just want to pass in our specific object here. So we can easily do that. So if we go back to our delete task where we have our object here, we can simply go and, so we can go ahead and just reference this object. So to do this, we can just quickly create a context dictionary here. Okay, and we're just going to reference task. Actually, no, let's put object. So we want to reference a specific object here. And I need to put in colon, and here I can pass in the value, which will be task, so the instance that we select. Pass in our context dictionary. Okay, so this is something you need to do, just like so. So if we go to our views, delete task here, we're going to see that specific object that we select. So if we go back, and we can now see task object 6. So we can go back here, and we can check it for all of them. Task object 7. So we are deleting essentially an object, so we can treat this whole instance here, our instance here, well, we don't use the instance here, because we just go ahead and select that specific record. So this doesn't look so great. We just want to add some space here between go back and submit. So let's go to our delete task actually. And where do we have it? Are you sure? That's fine. Okay, we can put it here. So we just want to add some spacing here. Okay, there we go. So now let's test this. So let's delete 2 objects. We're going to delete object 6 and object 7. So are you sure you want to delete task object 6? I'm going to say yes. It's going to redirect back. So we can see it's been deleted. Let's say I want to delete this last one here. So we would go to delete. So are you sure you want to delete task object 9? I say yes, submit, and it's gone. So now you can see we only have 1 task left out of in our task model. So in our task database table, we only have 1 task left, and that is task object 7. Okay, so that's it on update and delete. I hope it was helpful for you, and that's it.